Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Shraja and I'll be hosting today's webinar. A very warm welcome to our fourth episode of eGov Academy Learning Series. Today's session is all about real life impact. We have done so far three webinars. What started with eGov's theory of change as five threads of exponential impact, moving to introduction to our open source platform Digit, and then the exploring our role, eGov's role as catalyst in the ecosystem. Today, we will get into the impact story mode to see the digital transformation of public services in Andhra Pradesh, which is a southern state in India, and to share the profound insights and experiences around this initiative that focused on enhancing citizen services, citizens' ease, improved accessibility, and overall perception of government services. We have with us the torchbearer of the transformational journey, Krishna Kumar Tyagarajan. KK is the Vice President Partnership and Delivery at eGov Foundation. In his journey with eGov, he has focused on creating and deploying solutions seeking profound outcomes in urban governance. And joining him in this conversation is Harshavardhan, who is Senior Program Manager at eGov and has led end-to-end the implementation in Andhra. So we'll start with the very first question that I think, and the very important question that everybody is waiting to hear. So, KK, how did this journey begin? And why did AP decide to take this back in 2015?
Hey, thank you, Shrija. Thank you for inviting me to your learning series event. And yeah, I think first of all, I would probably want to say that while I am talking on this, doesn't mean that I was the guy who was doing all the things, right? This was a journey which was predominantly led by the department folks. The credit of the change, whatever was achieved, goes to them, right? We played a catalyst role in the change, and we help them. We help them in what do you say, very specific points where they were able to make those changes, right? We sort of help them in the change management around it, and that's where the all the credit goes to the department and the ownership they took to change this and the change management that happened around it, right? So that's that part particularly we mentioned. So I think now we can dive in. And as you asked me, when did the journey begin? The journey began actually much earlier than I joined eGov. It was, I think, Chandrababu Naidu when the state was separated. I think the state separation, erstwhile Andhra Pradesh became Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So the it was a new state that was created, and there was a need for there was a felt need to look at things differently, come out with a different vision. So at that point in time, they created something called Vision 2020. Was it? And that around that vision, there was they were trying to reform the government in a different way and cast a new set of policies, guidelines, etc. And they were looking for something to. Urban was identified as a focus area, and they had wanting to automate. Chandrababu, we all know that he was interested in automation, etc. That he was looking for something, and when he saw something in Chennai, he felt that that is something he needs to have in Andhra as well. So Chennai incidentally was a eGov system that was done, and he was very impressed with the dashboards, the data that was available, visible, etc. And he was saying that okay, we want to do this, and that's when the uh, thing came about, and he had subsequently visited eGov office as well to look at what we had and all that. But there was a few things that he wanted differently. He said he doesn't want every city to have a system. He wanted a common system. That was one ask, right? Second is he said that the key reasons he wants something like this to happen was to make sure that the department right now, the way they function, there was multiple systems that were deployed, but there was no information coming out. Second, the all the different departments within that ULB, Andhra Pradesh incidentally had around 110 ULBs at that time. Today it's 125. But all these ULBs had their own way of functioning. There was no common things. There were some common applications also. So it was like a sort of a semi-automated in most parts. And there were the Nagar Panchayats which were completely not digitized at all. It was a scenario like that. And but the thing was, they were not able to think about any improvements. They were not able to make the citizens' life easier. So as a part of the journey, he wanted to transform the system, and he was wanting to use digitization as a way to bring about the transformation, so that he can hold the departments accountable to the
Hmm.
citizen and make them perform. That was one goal. Second was there was a revenue was a challenge with the new state farm. Revenue was a challenge. So revenue was so there were two key areas of focus. That is deliver good service to citizen, and therefore expect them to give more revenues to the state. Right. Those are the two objectives which the thing was conceived, and eGov product was chosen as a way to do it. And we had a that was a sort of a contractual kind of a thing with them, and they said, "Okay, to do this transformation, so the agreement that was sort of agreed upon was to implement a system which was robust to make citizens' life easier and give them better experience of services from the government."
So following your, so Kiki, you mentioned that one of the very much important goal that the state understood was urban transformation. What apart from that were some, if you can highlight some specific goals that the urban department was set out to achieve, and how did they find us fit in their seeking, whatever they were seeking?
Yeah. So the broad goals defined were this. So as a part of the project, when we tried to sort of nail down what we want to achieve out of this, so there were five factors which we identified as core,
Hmm.
which needs to happen if we want to improve different aspects of the municipal operations.
Hmm.
The first one was we said we need to increase revenues. So
Hmm.
doubling revenues in 3 years was a goal. Okay,
Hmm.
that was one goal. So everything we did was having that goal at the back of the mind. All these 5 points I'm telling you is something that's going to drive every action in that project, right?
Okay.
So every decision that takes taken in the project, everything will be around these five goals. Second one was make sure that the citizen's life is easier from access perspective. Uh, they wanted to make as many channels as open for the citizen. 24/7 citizens should be able to reach out to government. They need not visit office, etc. So citizen ease was a second one. And the third one was saying that the accountability should be built in. The government should look at the accountability, etc. from them. And the fourth one
Hmm.
was, can we have to break down the silos within the government,
Hmm.
so that whatever data that comes in should be available to everybody, and people should be able to take decisions based on the data. So data-led governance was the goal as a part of. So
Hmm.
every time any function area we tap into, these things should be looked into very carefully to drive the change.
Hmm.
Okay, and as a part of that, we said that we have to everywhere we said there's a need for change, right? There's a need for streamlining process. There's a need for re-engineering the process, avoid wasteful steps, so that
Hmm.
the government should be able to deliver more with this, right? So the whole accountability, uh, data salience, etc., was an important part, and it sort of drove these five goals, sort of drove every module that was implemented, and to make them efficient
Hmm.
and organized.
Okay. So given that there were five major goals that they were seeking out and how they saw us fit in, how was the scope finalized and what was the scope actually? And was it in a phases manner that we rolled out, or how did that happen?
Okay. So part of the project charter, there were multiple criteria that was used to identify the modules. The first one was they had this automated system that was existing, which were run by multiple people, and they were incurring cost on maintaining it. They said that
Hmm.
okay, we'll prioritize those and shut down those, right? Because the cost at least can go away, and whatever money is left can come into this project, right? So cutting down and shutting down some of those systems was a goal as a part of that one. So because those systems were not able to scale, so that became one of the thing there. Second is, so the module prioritization. That was one consideration. Second one was impact the citizen and create positivity. So, and therefore, services was important, and therefore make sure that the citizen is able to digitally access services, opening up channels, experience better things. And AP also had something called Seva Kendras, equivalent to Seva Kendra. It's called AP. We had something called Service Online, AP Online, and we also had MC. another Seva Kendra, Seva Kendras, which were established, which were physical infrastructure that were established, but the municipal services were not on it. The other government services were there, but the municipal services was not. So they wanted to make sure that those are available in those established centers as well as a part of this journey. So the way the modules were grouped, so the whole scope was tackling all the different aspects of government. So in many ways, it was called a municipal ERP. It was called saying that basically, what is an ERP? ERP says data captured only once but reused everywhere else, right? So breaking so silos breaking was one of those goals, right? Second one was like the uh, the services were in such a manner that we are able to attack all those four goals that we had in everywhere, right? And so the modules were, it was decided to be three phases. First phase included the key items of property tax and water, which was automated in most of the ULBs. So that was taken as the first win. Then we said, apart from the water service, which had citizen outreach, PGR was picked up because there was complaints from citizen was a way to let people know that we care for you. So that was taken up as a part of the first phase, right? And then since the digital presence of the municipalities were not there, all the municipal portals were part of the first phase. So these four were sort of grouped down in the first phase so that we can tackle these four things and deliver as a part of the first phase for people to experience success. Subsequently, the modules included the expenditure modules like works, operational modules like finance, even including how do you manage the municipal councils, etc. Those kind of things were moved into the subsequent phases because they had little citizen-facing issues, but they had more operational and internal focused issues. So the citizen services were sort of given higher priority, so they came in the first phase 1 and 2. The operational efficiency part of it was in phase 2 and 3, and mostly internal came in the that's a kind of broad thing. And though there were 23 different modules identified, we actually swapped 4 modules and gave them something else than what was thought of because some other initiative came and they got that module. And so we swapped that for something else so that the department experienced a holistic IT change. So that's why the structure happened that way.
Okay. So like we understood what the major goals were of the state at that point of time, and then we also understood how it was done very logically bundled, phase-wise, rolled out and implementation. Can we also get a sense of how the internal structure or the internal departmental alignment was? And, whoever they were working with, how were they onboarding partners? How were they even asking, the transformation to happen and aligning these partners, multiple partners working together? So if you can, you or Harsha can share that because Harsha very closely worked at that point of time in Andhra. So if you can shed some light on that.
Thanks, Shiva. Thanks. Uh, at the time, AP got a World Bank funding for this urban transformation. So they have set up an organization by name Andhra Pradesh Municipal Development Project. So that was the contracting body for this project, entire project. So which was headed by a project director and an executive officer, like in the position of additional project director, leading the execution. From department side, director of municipal administration is the sponsor of the program. So they were multiple partners like system integrators, uh, software developers, cloud providers, and other allied agencies. Okay. So all these were coordinated by the joint director IT, who is driving the change. Apart from that, we have domain experts also who are cooperating for design and implementation of the project. Capacity building is also a primary objective of the department to make the product or application adoptable by the year before. So this is how Wellington organization was set up, and the coordination was happening with the partner. Okay, sir, if you want to add some more things, please.
Yeah. This was the structure was. If you look at this, what he explained, you'll find that it's aligned to the money that was flowing in. So there was a money that was flowing in from World Bank, and therefore, as typical of government, so they have a structure around that money flow, right? So there was a need that there was a lot of gaps that creeped in, and we had to change some of this governance structure, add new people into it along the way journey. So it was not just what was set up, then whatever need was felt and the phase of the project, right? The additional structures were put in place to enable the change to happen.
So it was on the go, understanding the need at that point in time, how the departments move pieces along. So next question is, how did the department ensure that there is right requirements captured at different point in time, right processes put in place, which was also adhering to citizens charter and municipal acts and rules? How did that happen?
Okay, so based on the phasing, right? The requirements, because we are dealing with 110 ULBs, right? So it's not possible or practical even to go to everybody and find out what they do, etc. So what we did was we said, okay, we will let us form a domain committee, which will represent different kinds of organizations, the corporations, the municipalities, the Nagar Panchayats, and let them get represented for every functional area, like or a module, and let's form a domain committee. So the domain committee was formed for every functional area, and this domain committee was to provide inputs to the business analysts, right? And they became sort of custodians of what they seek from a system, right? In some way, they became the custodians of that. So, but along the journey, what we realized was, well, they were giving input, but they were prominently repeating what they were already doing. Okay, so we had to do a lot of synthesis with them to say, how do we streamline this? So we ran workshops on streamlining. We said everybody cannot do everything differently. If you want to really compare and learn from each other, if learning from each other was a goal, what is happening well in particular ULB, if another ULB wants to replicate their success, so we need to have common apple to apple comparison should be possible. So we sort of dived in and said, we will not have too much of variations in process. We'll limit the variations to only 3. Basically, one for corporations which are big in setup. Second was the municipalities which was next level, and the Nagar Panchayat which are very small, take very staff is very little, don't have elaborate hierarchy, etc. For them, we'll have a separate thing. So we said that we'll have 3 processors at maximum. So every function area after it was broken up was made sure that we had only 3 variations, so that we can at least compare apples to apples and figure out who is doing better and therefore learn from each other. So that was one of the goals around the whole thing. As a part of the change management, this was thought about. And the domain committee was involved in finalizing those. So
Right.
a lot of BPR was done along the journey. And that BPR, again, the requirement was after the capturing requirement, the synthesis happened with all the goals. Are we meeting this goal? Are we making it easier for citizens? How many channels we are opening up? Where are we breaking the silos? Are we repeating data capture? So are you opening up which other department needs the data for what? So that was thought about in every module. So the domain committee was sort of looped in by our business analyst team to sort of bring it all together and finalize a re-engineered efficient process, which was with a very minimal variation so that you can compare and learn from each other. And this domain committee not only was responsible for giving the requirement, the team was also made to be the guys who accept the solution. The acceptance also testing was supposed to be given by them. Though what happened is a different story, but this is how we set it up to operate. Okay. But yeah, this is how the requirement was captured with the best possible instant. And this domain committee was roped into even do the training and be the champions around the change that needs to happen.
So this domain committee, did they become the master trainers or the custodians of the entire implementation?
See, the domain committee, unfortunately, the way they're constituted, they are predominantly senior functional leaders in that. Most of the ULBs, they were the leaders of that. So we found that they were not able to do a lot of training and all, but we made them the owners, and we made them sort of championing. So any capacity building happened, they were chairing it, if not conducting it. So we made sure it's happening under their aegis, not under
Mm.
eGov. You
Right.
get what I'm saying, right? They're the guys who are there. They bless it. They do the introduction. They emphasize. We had told them what is the change they are desiring. They tell it. But then we on the
Mm.
system part we do it. So it's just like sort of breaking it down so that the change becomes acceptable to the people,
To the
and they
people. Right.
also set expectations of what is expected of them, right? So those
Mm.
role definitions itself was communicated that way. So the domain committee was also ensuring that we are capturing all the different use cases, potential differences that may happen, so that the requirement capture was uh, what is it, more comprehensive than, because government is very poor at giving requirements. So this
Mm.
domain
Right.
committee sort of solved for that missing, etc., and at
Mm.
least brought in a lot of things under one four, and that helped to articulate the requirement better, and therefore the solution that came out also became better.
Right. So moving to next very, very important question that also we highlighted that this webinar will be revolving around is data-driven governance. So after all this, when people started using it, when committees were formed, internal structures were defined, the goals were defined, and when people actually started using the system, the data started flowing in, right? How, and during the implementation, then how did the department use or leverage that data to make decisions and to hold even accountability to each of the ULBs and make necessary changes whenever it was important? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting piece, because the way we thought about this data, right? Because data was one of the goals around of the project. So
Yes.
every functional area we were trying to do, we were trying to identify what are the right KPIs, what will hold people accountable, what each roles, because the role definitions also is aligned to that. So we are trying to
Mm,
can we give everybody to know whether they are doing their job or not,
mm,
so they themselves can measure themselves, right? So that was one
yeah.
part of it. Second part of that was like operational accountability, if you ask it, right? That was one goal. Then for seeing that whether people are using the system or not, because many of the modules were not at all automated earlier, functions were not automated. So they are going to a new system. We don't know whether, because 125 ULBs, how will you know who is using it or
Mm,
not using it? So
yeah.
we had something called a rollout dashboard as a concept, which
Uh-huh.
sort of
Mm,
tracked who is using, where is using, what is being used, what is not being used. So we sort of defined different intersections in each function area. And that rollout dashboard was not anything fancy. It was just basically a table dump for people
mm,
like us and the department administrators to look at. It did not have anything fancy. It was just a screen dump of some data, but which will help them to point out where something is not happening, where some ULBs are not doing this properly, where there's delay in something happening. So that dashboard was meant for bringing it out. For example, just
mm,
to give you an idea, let's say in finance, you want to say that the money is collected at the counter is banked. So we had a
mm,
bank reconciliation. So have you deposited the money in the bank is an action. So we had one. When was the last bank deposit happened? We saw it in the system. If somebody is not doing it for more than a week, somebody will call them and say, why are you not doing it? What is the challenge? So basically, the interventions were saying that, is it happening or not? And that's how it was simply done, to see whether people are following the process. One is to see output. Many times dashboards are meant to see, okay, oh, so much money I collected as revenue, so much transactions happened. That's one output kind of a thing. We
mm,
wanted to track inputs, and we
yeah.
also wanted to track usage. So
Mm,
with that rollout dashboard was one concept that we brought in. We all of course had a output related measurements, which was something that CM also looked at. So,
mm,
and second is the objective of that kind of output and holding people accountable was like, we have to make them use it daily. They
mm,
should not use anything else. That was the goal. So to do that, so we said that it should be simplified. So if you look at the dashboards, whatever is today available publicly for public to see, we made it transparent. As a part, which was a decision that was taken, and we said this data is public, the services are public, the money is public, so let it be open. So the dashboard is okay, no, not behind a password and a firewall and all that. So that was one decision that was taken. Second is that same thing was used to review people. It was not
mm,
separate thing. And to hold people accountable, etc., the data was used. So what happened was we created a very comprehensive thing first, but then we found that people were not able to use it very well. So we had to dumb down the dashboard, simplify the parameters, and we brought down the whole thing to such a level that now today, if you look at AP, everybody only refers to dashboard when discussing. And that is what is actually one of the biggest cause of change. The data is used on a daily basis to conduct reviews, and that is the data that is trusted. And all the manual activities that used to happen in the initial phases of implementation were slowly weaned out. We said that we don't trust anything else but this. So slowly that was done. So then we had, on top of this, we also had reports. These reports were meant for each functional manager to use those reports for driving change and holding his team accountable. So those were not in the dashboards per se. The dashboard helped to some level, but if you want to do that domain-specific analysis, that was available in the form of reports. So there was 3 levels. One is the rollout dashboard. Second is the dashboard for managing the output. And the third level was the reports, which were helping people to get handle on their operations and functions. So these are the 3 ways sort of, which sort of help to drive the change.
So just to bring clarity here, so when we talk about data, all these data that we had in these 3 dashboards were all transactional data, right? It was not coming from, say, someone inputting some data or something. It was always happening while the services were being delivered or asked for, and the transaction was happening between citizens and the government, right?
Yes, yes. In fact, we had some challenges in the beginning around that as well. For example, when we were looking at monitoring data, and so one of the things that we put as a governance practice when the implementation was happening is every module that goes live, we will use the rollout dashboard to monitor what's happening. And every alternate day after the switching on the system, we will have everybody assemble for 1 hour to see what's happening, who is facing what challenge. And if the challenge comes out that 2-3 ULBs are having the same set of problem, we said we'll solve it through the system in some manner. Anything that was being observed, it was not part of the requirements which was captured. So new things were identified, which became bottlenecks either from an efficiency perspective or from a user challenge kind of perspectives, or something they were unable to do because of this, right? People who got stuck up. So all those were identified and those were resolved. And luckily, the government also allowed us to make those as change requests, and we were able to charge them as well. So, but the thing is, in fact, we must have run, almost equivalent amount of the contract was earned in change requests also. So, but the thing was, the focus was the next 2 months after the situation, so many changes were done, so that people did not have a chance to say they cannot use the system. All the bottlenecks that they had, maybe training. Sometimes we identified it's a training issue, so we retrained people. Sometimes we identified that this screen was functioning so slow. What can we do? So we fixed that issue. Sometimes it was felt that the citizens were complaining about some bug coming in, so that came from the field, so that was fixed. So all those the listening back from the users, not from officers, but where the thing that sort of fixed, at least the baseline started improving for people.
Right. So making system easier for the end user who are using in the system and became like
and remove all the objections they may have, because it's part of change management also, mind you. See, this is not just a system issue; it's a change management function as well. Sometimes that for doing something, they're not getting money released from somewhere. That also surfaces during the reviews. So the government says, okay, now I will fix that. So they put XLAs and monitor that also. So there was an ability to sort of circle back on things. And wherever system could help, we ensured that the system helped. Wherever decisions were missing, we ensured that there was somebody assigned for those tasks. So that's how missing those tasks that were orphans suddenly found somebody to take who can address those issues. Because the reviews and the data help to arrive at those.
Right. So, okay. So moving from data to, because it was not one implementation or one small module that we took to Andhra. Harsha, I would like to bring you in here. So if you can just tell us, what were the different modules? KK already highlighted a few, but if you can talk in detail what were the different modules that we took to AP, and how were implementation challenges different for different modules? And giving some example of how you mitigated those challenges on the go while implementation was happening.
Yes, yes. Uh, we already, KK sir highlighted it. We have 23 modules in AP. So for example, we have proper taxes, some module, vacant land,
Hmm.
water charges, sewerage charges, trade licenses, and administrative modules like council, legal case management, HR, all this, so on and so forth. So what happened? Each module has its own challenges. Say, for example, citizen services required multi-channel activation, automated grievances routing, and standardization across the ELBs. Right. So while the things are implemented, say for example, in trade licenses, one reform they wanted to introduce is trust and verify. First, after payment of trade license fee, across the counter they wanted to issue a provisional license and then verify it later. So that was also carried out as part of this process while it's already implemented. Second thing is that finance module was introduced. In finance, what the challenges are that it has to be integrated with the revenue modules that were already there. Second
Hmm.
thing, it has to comply with the accounting rules and treasury rules. So these are like multifolded. And uh, so, uh, after some time, we had a major reform that happened in property tax. So it's almost after 30 years, the reform has happened in property tax, like moving the taxation methodology from annual rental value to capital value. So all these have its own challenges and its own complexities. So what is it's like a collaborative work, and most of the things we were dependent on the department to provide us all the coordination work with other external agencies like capital value. We were dependent on revenue department to get base values and then how it is computed. So
Hmm.
like this, we try to sort it out with the help of the department. Yes.
So, so that was the help, and if you can also talk about while this implementation was happening and the governance structure was put in place, what was internal governance structure that state and the department had to work around or change or, bring about for this transformation to happen?
Yes, yes.
This is yeah.
Uh, yes, yes. Please take it, sir.
Yeah. So the as see the earlier structure was very simple because it was around the money flows, right? So there was a owner of that fund who was also the owner of the project in that way. The sponsor
Yeah.
was the Department of Municipal Administration, the DMA, and all of them and the World Bank reviewed the project. The World Bank used to review the spend of the money and all that stuff and
Mm,
how things are progressing. And so we were part of those teams as well. So
mm,
this was structure. This is a government practice. But along the way, we realized that if you want to bring change,
mm,
this structure alone will not help. The domain committee was able to give requirements, but they were not really empowered to see if it's things are happening and all, and they were busy in their own tasks. So to when every module that went live, we wanted to know what's happening on the ground, and people may not be willing to talk in the weekly daily or alternate stand-up calls
oh,
to listen to their issues, right? So what
mm,
was did was we identified some of the good guys whom we identified during the capacity building exercises and made them nodal officers of change. So these guys became sort of evangelists who were familiar with the system. They were excited about using it, and these people
mm,
were asked to be the nodal officers in for that module, not only
mm,
for their ULB, but for adjoining ULBs.
mm,
And as a part of the task, we also made them travel to those ULBs and understand what's happening in that space and bring out issues which they will be unwilling to share it in open. So that
mm,
these people became their voice in some manner, these nodal officers. And since
right.
they are going and monitoring, so a lot of feedback used to come. And this feedback resulted in action items which could result in change in the system, change in the way the screens are presented, the usage changes. It could result in capacity building needs, identification, etc. So, and sometimes we also realized, for example, some of the interesting thing that came out was even though the system was giving out receipts, people were still issuing manual receipts. This came out in one of the reviews. We said that, okay, then there was one of the officers who were participating here. He said, okay, how do we stop it? So we said ki nobody should use it and all that stuff. So that was announced. It was issued as a note also. Then again, it was happening the next week. Then they said, okay, all the receipt books that are empty should be sent back to the said office. And if anybody is found using it after that, so things like that started surfacing. Second thing was like people who there was some guys who said that the system was performing doing some errors in particular URBs and not with others. We we tried to dig deeper as an analysis of that. Then we realized that they are using it wrong. So we had to conduct training programs with them. See, the nodal officers became in some ways champion people who go and sense what's changing on the ground or not changing on the ground, and were also boldly able to represent the shyness that the individual employees might be feeling in surfacing the issues to the IT team or the governance team that has existed. So it's sort of, they became a broker of sorts to and also the agents of change. And all the capacity building was done through some of these nodal officers and some good trainers whom we identified during the first phase of training. And they became, we made them do those things, right? So some of the new structural elements and some new roles got introduced as a part of this. Incidentally, you'll be interested to know there's so many of people who were drafted into this role, but who are not performing what is expected of them. And those people were changed. Almost 40% of people whom we inducted for these roles were changed as the time went by because they were not doing their job, or we felt that they were not being effective. So these are all decisions not taken by us, but by the department, the domain guys, and the team that was monitoring it.
Yeah. So because they had data on a real-time basis and they were able to see the changes happening real time, it was easier for them to make quick decisions.
Yeah.
So so KK, because everything was happening for citizens and citizens were at the core because they wanted citizens to adopt. What were different systems taken, or even the process taken up by the department to make sure that the system is being adopted by the end users, and also if it is reaching out to citizens or not? What were these major things that they did?
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting because that's been one of the biggest challenge we faced. The internal government employees was fairly cakewalk compared to this. But this was like, first is to create awareness. Then second is making them try it and use it. And there was a knowledge gap that used to exist. Not people were, no. So there was a challenge in, so first make them download something or at least make them aware something is available digitally. So this awareness creation was a challenge. So awareness creation of the mobile app for citizens, that was called Purawa. They named the mobile interface for the citizen. So it was thought about as an umbrella app where all the municipal services will come on to that, so that the citizen can only interact with that app. So the Purawa was the name given, which in old Sanskrit or Telugu, Pura means city, right? And that was the name that was given at that time. And that, so to popularize it, first there were multiple things that were done. So they need to reach out to people. So they had actually organized one. They had they called an ICT department that existed with them, and this department was brought on board. And after looking at what they are doing and all, we realized that they can do a few things, but they are not very comprehensive in the way they think of. So we said that, okay, let's get the posters out, ads out, right? So they did those. So centrally, so eGov played a small role in helping them to think through what the messaging could be, etc., or what the value propositions are and all that. And they created those posters and all, and that was pasted, of course, with Chandrababu Naidu's name and all that. Posters were stuck up everywhere, and it's a political stuff as well as a good communication for the citizens, right? And during some of his speeches, Chandrababu Naidu also talked about it, etc.
Yeah.
So there was some kind of an outreach that was happening. But we also felt that probably we need a little bit more repeatable usage. So for that, we had suggested them that too, that they should employ a good video, create a good video, which will help them to do this. And that video, so and they were wanting us to do that video. We said, yeah, we don't have the skills for video and all. So they asked us to identify somebody for creating that video. And based on some contacts from their side, from our side, we called the people and gave them what we wanted. And we made different people bid for it. And ultimately, they chose one organization which they did, and objective there was to create impact, and we homed in on public grievances as a model, because people, the citizens will be able to, even though other things were available, but grievances was a thing that people can get attracted to, and that was the focus. So the video did not talk about other things. It focused predominantly on how somebody can easily let a challenge on the day-to-day operations be communicated to the people, and somebody will respond back. So we made sure that we did this video after 1 month or 2 months of implementation, because we wanted to set the home right first before you go on. Otherwise, you'll fall flatly back. So then the videos came out pretty well. It was done in Telugu and in English, right? And it had there was a thing that was put on YouTube for 3 minutes. There was a 11-minute video also. There was a thing on 1 minute. So the idea was to put those videos available in multiple forms. One was use the theaters. So every ULB people were supposed to reach out to theaters and make sure that this plays there at least one show every day. Second is the cable TVs were tapped into. Local cable TV channels were tapped into, and they were asked to do that, right? Then there was a video that was available on the web as well, right? And also on the website. So and even a mobile app carried something. So this just to sort of proliferate that. Then we were tracking how many downloads are happening from citizens, because it was an app. So we were tracking the downloads from the Google site. Then seeing that how many are done, and we were trying to say, okay, can we increase it? So every time we monitor everything, we look at this aspect. What's happening here? Is it happening or not? This was a part of the life of everybody who was involved. And then there was another thing that we discovered accidentally, not necessarily as a design, that there was a team that was working with the people on the ground. This came from an organization called MEPMA. MEPMA was running the self-help groups and all that. And during one of the interactions, they were mentioning that they were working in some schools and all that stuff. And then Anganwadi was there. Suddenly, we realized that there's a channel to tap into. And we talked to those people who are running some of those work there and asked them to come on board. So the students were given a small game where we trained some 9 standard, 10 standard students, not the lower class, and they were becoming agents of change. So they should be able to download the app for the citizen. Then they should be able to register a grievance which they see and show it to the people and make them use it. So that was a simple goal, and they had to tell how many numbers, and based on which the kids were given some prize also. So this was used to another way to sort of proliferate it into the reaches which that was not addressed during this one, right? There was also an attempt that was made which did not really go through, was using the Anganwadi workers to because we realized that they were too much occupied. They were already loaded. So that did not really progress. But these 3-4 things that we did, we saw the number of downloads go up. We also suddenly had a very interesting, around the same time, Swachhata app was being promoted by the government of India, which became a competition for that. And for them also, download was an important feature. These people had to repeat. So it was going to create confusion in the mind of the citizens. Right. So we told them, we actually talked to the Swachhata people team and said, okay, yeah, this already is here. You are focused only on sanitation related stuff, whereas this is a comprehensive urban app. So why confuse it? So we said, you should consider this app download as your downloads. Okay. We are not saying you don't use that. If it uses that also, somebody uses Swachhata app, great. We are not stopping it. We'll give you a way to push the data into this. It will get address.
Hmm.
All the status update will come back to your Swachhata app. But don't make us drive a different communication and confuse people.
Yeah.
This is a measure of that. So we negotiated and we also integrated with them. So things like this was done to make sure that the citizen doesn't get confused
Hmm.
and there's a one single way to track it. The numbers were tracked, the usage was tracked, and the failures in the app was tracked, so that the citizen started. And we found a few issues on different pages. We deployed Google Analytics to help us do that, and those also helped us resolve issues on the ground, apart from what we used to sense from nodal officers and people who are facing the customers. So all these
Right.
sort of help to drive the adoption of.
Right. So it was not one single straight line approach. It was like multi-pronged approach, every layer, different people. How can we reach the end users and make citizens use this and leverage it and access services?
Yeah.
So, with that,
One
we'll
of
be
the
coming to next
interesting
question.
ones, okay, one of the best practices that was discovered and
Yeah.
shared in the weekly forums was some ULBs put a officer in the
Hmm.
citizen center, citizen counters, who used to tell people, download this, this is how you use it.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so people were doing that as well. So
Hmm.
that's something, a lot of bits and pieces of changes that were happening in different spots that created an
Hmm.
overall change. It was not
Yeah.
just one thing that created the change.
Correct. That's fantastic. I mean, whatever the context needed, it was done to make that happen. Otherwise, if it's only one single straight approach, it may not have been such a success. Um, with that, I want to ask Harsha this question. So, Harsha, what were the success metrics that we see after, say, 3 years of the project that finished in 2015 when we started engaging with AP? What were the few success metrics that you would like to highlight? You're on mute, Harsha.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Actually, it was a remarkable impact that has created for a period of time. Proper tax revenues have quadrupled in 8 years. It has reached up to the level of 2,200 crores by 2024-25. Also, water revenues also tripled during this period, while SLA compliance has rose from 15% to 80 plus percent. Employees, some survey was done some time back, which revealed that employees saved an average of 19 hours per week. So, because of this automation that had happened, apart from all these things, we introduced a few more things like integrated demand bill. It's a bill which consists of different utility charges also apart from proper tax. So this was unique at that time, which enabled consumer or citizen to know their obligations at a time and then discharge their obligations. So this has increased the revenue also substantially. So this is what I can say about all the impact
Harsha, do you
metrics.
want to talk about this integrated demand bill a bit here because this will be of interest to many of our audience.
Correct. Yes. Earlier, each say for example, a consumer is having property tax, water charges, sewerage charges. So um, we used to get three bills. Department used to generate three different bills. One for property, second one for water charges, third one for sewerage charges. So at the time, what department and we have discussed and thought of is to bring about a common bill which will be having all the charges mentioned in the same bill, which will be served in the first month of the financial year itself. So the bill consists of property details, property tax details, water charges details, sewerage details also, and the payment uh, related things like uh, when it's like if it is paid in so and so month, how much is the proper tax, which might include interest also. So the whole year amount is mentioned in the bill. So this was a remarkable thing at the time, and we have seen that people coming to pay proper tax were also paying water charges down the line after it was introduced.
Mm. No, this is fantastic because what happens as a citizen if I get like 100 bills, I may
Correct.
miss, one or two, but if it is putting together one under one page, one receipt, I will also have a view of as a citizen of everything that I am paying and I have, access to. And like Harsha also shared, this is what it looked like. So Harsha, do you want to talk about this as well?
Yes, yes, yes. This was a survey done some time back in AP. So, what the survey revealed is that productivity of the employees has increased and they have saved up to 19 hours per week. So, efficiency and work quality also substantially increased because of the automation that had happened. So, it is not that they have to work in the office itself. They can work after going to home also if they have this facility of a laptop or a PC at their house. So this caused a greater impact.
And this is what Harsha shared about how,
Yes.
drastic change was seen in water charges collection, property tax collection, and others. Um, this is, yeah, if this slide can also be explained, I think it will be of interest to many of us. So, Harsha, if you can.
So because of the 24 by 7 access to different channels for payment and service access, so people felt that whatever that is enabled through different modes without going to office they can avail. So that is revealed in this survey. The impact is 85%, and the access uh, mentioned by citizens is that they can access 85% citizens have made a positive statement that they can access all the online services. So even the perception of the citizen has also changed that there is no need of going to the office to avail a service. They just sit down, relax, and then apply for a service or pay any tax or charge, download all the receipts. All the receipts are there, available 24 by 7, attached to their property or the water consumer code permanently. So these initiatives played a vital role and build trust among citizens also.
Mm. So this is one of the important key thing that you said that it is not only improving services, but it is building trust in citizens that government will deliver services and they can access whatever is what they are entitled for. So with that, okay. So the next question that I want to highlight, KK, here is, how did I mean because the project started and we see a lot of time that project starts and ends. There is a life cycle of a project, but how did the department plan to sustain that project? Even after the project time was over, and what were the alternatives that they explored, and what did they choose ultimately?
Okay. Yeah. Before I dive into it, there was one thought that struck me when Harsha was talking about the impact.
Yeah.
Being a person who we care for the planet, apart from citizen services, right? So almost more than 6,000 trees were saved every year because of the way the operations were changed, the printing that happened reduced because of electronic distribution, and selective only for those areas which may not have that selective bill printing, right? I think that the department internal change resulted in saving 6,000 trees per year, kind of a volume. Uh, Otherwise, they were printing so much of bills and paper per year. Anyway, that was just a side story. But coming back to the transition, right? So, so there was the talk with the department almost 1 year before our formal engagement ended was saying that we are exiting. How do you want to take it over, right? So everybody felt the change. They had seen the benefits. The benefits were experienced, and they also felt that okay, we also along the way, since we drove several reforms, and we told them don't do the reforms on paper, using paper. Drive the reform through the system. So every reform that was implemented was also through the system. So which made them feel that okay, every time I have to do a reform, I have to think how to run it digitally. So this was a thought process that became earlier. They used to they used to have a system. Then reform needed. Then they will revert back to paper. This cycle was stopped, right? And we also made some of the things like they were using parallel systems like the e-file system, which used to exist, which they used to keep records of files. And we arrested those kind of process and removed the wastage of time and that as well.
Yes.
So what happened was, not this slide, not this slide. So the so when this particular piece was done, then we realized that uh, that okay, we need to keep this funding, because if you look at the whole thing, there was a lot of people involved. There was the cost around the system itself. For example, the cloud cost. Then there was software development cost. Then there was the third piece was the SI cost, because they had put one person in each ULB who were also available, right, as a part of the SI work. So we knew that all this has to be sustained, because since people got used to it, the on-site support was not needed, but still the remaining operations has to sustain, and therefore, and that cost was estimated, saying that how much will that be, right?
Right.
And we said, okay, how do we fund that gap? How do we make sure that is funded? So several options were explored to create the funds for that. Second challenge was, who should do it? Who will run it? Right? As a structure, how will it work? Right? These were some of the operational considerations that was also evaluated. And so there was, so on the funding part, there was one sort of exercise. We came out with options, and the 2-3 options were very. So we wanted to sort of use a charge based on a transaction basis, right? So whichever ULB users does more transaction, they will pay more, and those who use less will be. So a lot of different options were explored. The actual numbers from the system was used to compute what revenues are possible, etc., to fund this offered. Second thing was, who will do it. There was an IT organization in AP which was first thought to take over. Then there was another thought that, okay, the IT organization is not very efficient. They had a Section 8 company under the finance department, which was running IT, and they actually were running the treasury operations in the state. That organization was roped in to say, okay, so almost a lot of work happened to hand it over to them. But then the government changed and things sort of muddled up, right? So the final decision taken was to fund it by charging a flat amount based on past estimates to corporations at a different rate. The Nagar Panchayat at different rates, so that that operation can be sustained. The funding part was taken care of, and they decided to hire an organization which will form the technical team and which worked under the director of IT.
Right.
Director of IT was made accountable, and a team was given to him, which was sort of bought through a tender. And the funds from the collections from the different ULBs were used to do this. So this was done to handover. And as a part of the handover, we did a very, very elaborate handover. It was not like, train them once and that sort of. We did a very elaborate handover by gradually in the earlier phase, we were front ending, and after the KT was done, we started playing lesser role. They were doing a lot of backend. Then they started coming in the front. We were doing the backend, so that we gradually receded from there, so that they don't feel the transition pain. And it was executed very, very meticulously over a 3-month period. And Harsha ran that challenge of transitioning fully. And but it should. I think I should not miss out to call out a lot of people in eGov and outside. Some of our colleagues like Satish and Satish P. Then we had the colleague Pradeep, Elson, all played a different role at different points in time to solve the problem. Pradeep. So what happened is when we face a challenge, solving it technically, or even going and actually doing the change to create the change, right? People played a different role. Ideas came from them, and it was out and out complete teamwork that sort of not from a mere words perspective. I'm saying that actually what happened in the ground, and there were several players who contributed, be it outside people who happened to be listening to us, our presentation, who gave ideas, and the of course, the DMA team that was involved, and frankly speaking, all the success is because to them. IT is a support function and not
Right.
a line function, right? As far as the
Right.
municipality goes, right? So, and since they own the change, our contributions were recognized and that change happened.
Right. So, so you brought in, so I'm coming to the last question because we are already 2 minutes over the time. And we also want to open it for the audience for Q&A. I see two hands raised.
Okay.
We'll take that question. So coming to the last question, 2 points quickly, KK, if you can share. What were the political alignment and the leadership commitment from the department to hold this implementation through and through and also sustain it for a longer time? And what is the current kind of engagement that we have with AP? Because the partnership has been there for so long and it has strengthened over a period of time. So these two quick things, if you can share, and then we can open it up for the audience for questions.
Okay. I think the political alignment definitely helped because Chandrababu Naidu wanted to see data and he conducted reviews using data. So to that extent, that particular piece was there, and the so the that particular factor definitely helped for people to. And second is showing their own output through the system was also a big element in driving that. And the alignment, the DMA had a good alignment with the politicians as well. Those were two key factors. And therefore, whatever additional funding was required for the project and all, they were able to bring in. And that helped because if you go with a very fixed way of doing it, you will not be able to unearth all the challenges right in the beginning. The challenges many challenges emerge as on the implementation, and so that's definitely helped. Second is the people who are involved were also changed as if they did not perform over a period of time, and that was done in a slightly open manner, and the department took lead for changing those, even though they must have received inputs, but and holding people accountable was something that was a part of the program, as I told you right in the beginning, right? So the data led discussions used to happen instead of just in the air, and those sort of created the positive change that was needed around the whole thing.
Right. So I will open it up for question with the audience. You can please post your questions on chat or Q&A. Meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll share quickly back that slide that I was sharing and ask KK to share his perspective because it's a very interesting slide that I think we all should see how it was not only one system but multiple systems coming together bringing this transformation. So KK, if you can just,
Okay.
meanwhile we have the questions, if you can just share this.
This is a high-level view of how the AP municipal ERP or the digital platform looks like, that or the digit system right now looks like. It is a system. The centerpiece is what the AP digit system is, right? But on the lower side, you will see other applications that are working. For example, the revenue department application that's integrated into it. The Bhudar application of the state that's there. Social welfare department was integrated with the marriage licenses, right? So that benefits can be given to the people. Then there was a treasury system integration, right? All the government systems, Swachhata app, and Watt Secretariat, which was launched, all those were sort of brought in and integrated. This was one piece. On the top of the digit spine is where you have third-party applications, other people who build solutions for the department. Those were also integrated to the digit backbone for again, the goal was single data entry, reusable data, so that the data is trusted, right? With the data as the goal, all other systems are also brought onto this. So the work system that they use, or the IVRS system that was captured the citizen feedback, or the GIS system that became part of the survey for that happened, all those are integrated to digit at the backend. The digit became the functional backbone serving various different things, and therefore became a very reliable kind of thing, which opened up channels, etc., which was available to everybody. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, KK. So, yeah, it's open. I mean, for questions. if you want to ask direct from the implementers who led this entire AP transformational journey, um, Shreyas. Yes, Shreyas. Shreyas, do you have any question? Okay. Any questions from anyone? I know it's a bit longer, but okay. So the question is, KK, any takeaways for other states, if you can share?
Yeah, I think, yeah, the takeaways could be very simple few things, right? Have a specific goal to achieve and underline, not specific only to one function, but across the board, right? Which is, and that goals should be uh, such a way that you create a lasting change across multiple functions. Define the goals in that manner, right? Which can drive your entire decision making along the program. Okay, so that's one particular, definitely a key takeaway for anybody who wants to create change. Second one is, think about implementing and making the uh, employees use it should be the bare minimum you should achieve. But getting the citizens to achieve, you need to think very differently. Creating the excitement in the ecosystem partners is another thing that you need to think very differently in the program, right? And if we remain, that's another thing that you can know is an important takeaway. Third is, realize that when you're working with government, the requirements given by them is not comprehensive. You need to synthesize the requirement, make it comprehensive and align to the goals you are chasing. So that job will remain with people who are leading that implementation, so that we can, fourth, I would say, is make sure that the government functionaries are leading it and you
The
remain in the
ownership
background
is with them.
with them, and you remain in the background, helping them
Mm.
all the way, even even telling, like, you analyze the data beforehand and tell them these are the questions to ask in a meeting. Play that role as a
Nice.
support. Know that you are not the leader, you are a support to them, and their function has to work if the change has to happen. We being superlative is not going to create the change. They
Right.
becoming leading the change is going to create the change.
Right.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered that question. So the other question that we have, KK, is how you had set up the convergence, any challenges you face, which you want to discuss as learning.
I'm not sure about what does convergence mean, but the challenges uh, uh, I articulated here are the the thing that was experienced, and as a part of the change we created this. Because nodal officers was not something that see. I'll tell you how the nodal officer idea. Okay, I I was very new to government. Okay, I did not even know what was a ULB when I joined. Okay, so I was thinking, who is the champion? I was asking questions. There should be a champion user. There should be a guy who is driving the change. There should be a guy, functional owner. That never went in. But after 2 weeks of discussion and no change happening, I was like frustrated. And then I actually had a big argument with the officers there. They said, "Oh, you did nodal officer." I never heard of nodal officer at that time. So the what is that? The block fell into place. Suddenly everybody understood what it was. That nodal officer role was not something that I was using our Fortune 1000 kind of a change management approach. So
Right.
these kind of things will happen. You need to be persistent, and sometimes it just clicks. your communication. So some of these kind of aspects become there, and as long as you are defining it well enough, maybe somebody will say and roll it out, and there are people who will contribute towards it, because it's ultimately the change is theirs to create. We are
Right.
facilitators, right? And we should align to them, and insist on the change. Don't take no for an answer. They don't do it, say because of this failure will happen and you are accountable. push them back. Only then you'll be able to hold them accountable. And they change. I think people do change with time. It takes time. You need a lot of patience. And second one is make sure that the requirements are captured well, and don't just trust whatever they are giving you. That will be very periphery. In my interactions with government, you don't get clear answers to the questions you ask. You get a lot of other points. In fact, sometimes I've gone to understand the treasury system. I had only 4 questions before I entered. After 2 days of interaction with 9 people, I got only 2 questions answered. 3 were not answered. But the interaction happened for hours. So these are something that you need to understand and have that patience to work with them to clear the issues.
So you're saying that you have to scope out whatever is there and what needs to be done in focus and scope, and it will be an iterative process, because there will be a lot of demands coming in and out. By convergence, Sujit meant was multiple departments coming together and working. In the previous question where he said how you had set up the convergence.
What is it? Can you repeat? I missed it.
The previous question that we had, how you had set up the convergence, any challenges you face, which you want to discuss. So by convergence, he meant multiple departments coming together and working.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's what happens is whenever you create something, no, ask your question to yourself and to the other people who in the program. What is it you need from this department? Because we have to make them the owners of the data, and they should be providing it to the other. For example, when you wanted to, the water department wanted to give connections, we made property data as an important thing. If the property is not created, you don't give water connection, right? So we sort of brought that interlock and made sure that the property data is shared with the water department guys, and that silos are getting broken along the way. So you design the system to bridge those coordination challenges that might exist in the department. So that's a part of a design issue in your requirement synthesis that you need to do.
So next is not more of a question, but for more of a comment by Krishnan. It says, watching from Mauritius, I like the format of facilitation and the context, taking a macro perspective for a policymaker to have insights into what is involved in addressing data-driven governance. I especially appreciated the process described of domain committees, the inability to completely address the need from the start and rather allowing for changes to happen during implementation. Great format to help policymakers in other countries understand the intricacies of the process, which is nothing like getting consultant to develop a system. It requires engagement from all parties. Definitely, that's one of the learning key takeaways, that many partners. So there is partner, people, program, policies, everything coming together and playing their role in bringing the change. So thanks, Krishnan, for sharing this. But there is also one more question. Does public has access to these dashboards? So KK, can our audience also see the dashboard? Can we share the link with them?
Yeah, people can go to let's Harsha, can you just type out it in this one? So the link is given. It's an open dashboard, so anybody can see it and see the dashboards as you have the revenue visibility, revenue dashboards, then you have the services dashboard, you have the administrative dashboard, etc., which are available for you to look at, which are open.
Yes. There is also one question, KK. So many times grievances are simply closed without resolution. How does this can be improved? Reopen the grievances, also not helping sometimes.
Yeah. See, this is a change that we need to percolate, to let people know that people who close grievances are it's a quality issue, right? In some ways, you have to think about not addressing the things on time is a quality issue. Not doing it properly or improperly or incorrectly is also a quality issue. So the grievance has a couple of angles. One is the timeliness angle, which many of us are able to display, but there's also a quality angle that we need to be conscious about. And this quality angles will come through by doing random checks. A concerned department guy should have spent time of, let's say I'm part of the water department, right? So the works department as it is in some of the ULBs here. So that guy has to look at the complaints and see what are the complaint happening and whether it's getting done on time. He should use it as a monitoring tool for his team. So sometimes also do some random checks. The officer has to do a random check with a couple of citizens, call them and say, did it happen as what I see here? And if it not, pull those people up. So the ability to uh, uh, this is part of the implementation, right? This is what you should facilitate through your dashboards for random checks and make sure that people are serious about it. So people should know that this is a very serious affair, and therefore you're running it. It's not a time pass kind of a thing, right? If there's nobody who's looking at the data and asking the questions around it, no dashboard can help.
Yeah. So, KK, in a nutshell, you are trying to say that it's not one person's accountability, but it's a distributive accountability of at different levels of everyone involved in this entire ecosystem, right? Starting from government officials to citizens. So, okay, we have one more question from Shreyas. Did any learning from AP experience flow into national policy? So, if you want to take that question.
Mm, I don't know anything translated directly as a national flow kind of a thing, but the AP experiences, many of the practices uh, found its way into the design of digit, which then sort of codified knowledge in some sense, if you ask me, right? So what happens is that the chance of success in the other things don't need to go through all these learning experiences that happened in AP, right? To that extent, there was a codification of knowledge into the product. Second, there was also the national policy was to be an enabling policy and not a operational policy, because it's a state subject. Urban is a state or a local government subject and not a national subject. So that the national policy has to remain at that level and not get into the operations around it, right? So to that extent, they're there. But the national, definitely the experiences and the capabilities and the priorities were gleaned from some of these implementations. Not only AP, but also Punjab, Chennai, all those implementation experiences contributed towards shaping some of the NUDM themes, etc.
Right. So NUDM for our audience is National Urban Digital Mission. And KK, next question, and Harsha, if you want to take this. Can the municipal agenda meetings be added to the dashboard so that public can see what has been discussed, like parliament sessions open for public?
Yeah, let me take that. It's a very good question, actually.
Yeah.
It should be made public, but I don't think we have that kind of transparency prevailing here. Opening up the dashboard itself is a big one, right? Mind you, the money is public, the services are public, and getting that public and that bring the transparency is a decision of boldness. It's a boldness act from the government side. Where I agree that even the minutes should be public. I think it'll take some more maturity for our cities to grow into that shape. In fact, they don't even make the what is it, the decision making body like the corporate the municipal corporators when they meet, the city corporators meet. They don't even make those decisions public. So so that should probably be the next step actually of opening up. And the third one will be the minutes of meeting, which will be the third level of. So it has to go layered, but as you said, that's the journey we should all push towards. That change is a very important change to create.
One more question. Do you have any plans for public volunteering to address municipal issues?
We have a lot of opportunities of volunteering in solution design, in working with government, etc. And even product design and product development. We have we have our digit ecosystem that's operational, and people can participate in some of those efforts.
Yes.
If you have a specific theme in mind, you can actually reach out to some of our anchors who can help you to, connect you with the right teams which are working on different things. So just to give everybody an idea, we have 4 different missions within eGov. One is the health mission, which is trying to solve for the health as a whole, right? Second is the uh, public finance mission, which is like focused on improving the public finance aspect of it, which is like, then the urban mission, which around the case study around that was what we discussed today. And then we also have a sanitation mission. So these are 4 missions that eGov drives, apart from being partners to other organizations' missions. We do participate and collaborate with people to create those things with other NGOs, other government organizations, but they may not be eGov missions per se. But if you have any ideas, themes you want to connect with people, either you can participate directly with us if there's a thing, or we can attempt to connect you to the right people in your
Yes.
interest area.
Thank you so much. So, any other questions that we have open, because we are already 23 minutes over time. Looking forward to more initiative and hope you can publish on social media for more visibility. Of course, definitely. So I think thank you, KK, thank you, Harsha, for fantastic sessions. It was quite engaging and loved it. What I'll quickly do is I'll share the QR code for people to see what is coming up next and what's already there in our Academy Learning Series. So please go ahead and scan this to view the list of what's coming next in the Academy. And also you can view the recordings that has been done for previous webinars, and you can watch that. For any questions, any queries, sharing insights, I have added the link email ID on the chat box. Please write to us. We will follow it up and we will pass it to the relevant teams internally. So, and any feedback, anything that you want us to cover next, you can scan here and write to us. We will make sure that the topic is covered in coming future.
Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you, Kiki. Thank you so
Sriya.
much. Thank you,
Thanks.
Harsha.
Thanks to all the
Thank you,
participants.
everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. So please do write to us. We're waiting, and we'll see you next Friday, 4 to 5, for our next webinar. Thank you so much.